Hello, everybody. Today I will be giving an overview of the Forex trading library that I have written in Python. This library uses OANDA's market platform to pull data from the Forex markets, and it allows you to get market data from pretty much whatever period you want. I have also included features for visualization of data and backtesting of the data on the markets. So, just as a quick overview of what purpose this serves and why I wrote this library. So, recently I had been trying to get into trading Forex, and I'm I'm not a skilled trader by any means or at all. I can't even call myself a trader because I haven't really made any money on the market. I'm sort of in the developmental stages of getting into trading. So, of course, that comes with a lot of like looking at the markets, learning how to identify patterns, data analysis, and stuff. And so, I know there's a plethora of trading platforms out there that exist. My go-to is TradingView because I had an account on it before, but I lost the login information. And so, I was just like looking at market data on TradingView, like for example, the pound dollar. And I was looking at market data on here. I wanted to add some indicators and stuff to, find different ways of looking at the data. And I remember being on TradingView and trying to go back like a couple thousand candles. And it was like, oh, blah, 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 blah. With a free TradingView account, you can only see up to 5,000 candles. Please log in or make an account or whatever. And I'm like, well, shit, I don't feel like making an account or paying for their service or whatever that they're trying to get me to do. Um, and so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to write my own visualization suite for Forex. Um, and going back to the chart, like, it doesn't look like it's making me like stopping me at 5,000 candles because I think I've gone back more than 5,000 candles now from the present. But yeah, that was my initial like inspiration for wanting to make the program, and so I decided to do it using not Forex, OANDA's Forex API, because I already had an account with OANDA, and yeah, so I kind of don't know where I'm going with this because it's a totally unscripted video. So sorry if I seem like I'm rambling, but now let's get on to the second part where I show you guys kind of like an overview of the code in Python, and show you guys how this thing works. And of course, I will post a link to the GitHub for the code, and that has the source and everything. So I'm not entirely confident in my programming skills, to be totally honest, but it works so far. But if there are any criticisms or any suggestions on how to make it better, I would appreciate it. But yeah, let's get right into the code. So we're here in my IDE, PyCharm Community Edition, and the file that we're looking at is OANDA PySuite.api. So the package is called OANDA PySuite, and this is the API module within that package. This module contains one single class, the API class, and if you don't get it already, this class is used to interact with the Forex API. So right now, I'm going to go over how 5 functions in this class work: the get candles function, the load account function, the select accounts function, the open trades function, and the close trades function. So to start with get candles, it has 5 arguments that you can see here. This first one is the instrument, so whatever Forex instrument you want to trade. So for example, like pound dollar, GBP, USD. Keep in mind that for OANDA, the format for the instrument should be base pair underscore quote pair, and all the letters should be capitalized. If you don't do it like this, you're going to get an error back when you make a request to the API, so keep that in mind. The following is, of course, the granularity or whatever time frame you want. So it could be like S5 for 5 second, H4 for 4 hours, so on and so forth. And again, keep in mind the letters here have to be capitalized. Now, these last 3 arguments, which are none by default, is how you specify the range of candles that you want. So for count, it can be any number. I mean, I haven't tried any stupid, crazy high number. I'm sure it would work. I mean, I don't know if the code will give a bug. I probably should test that. But anyways, this is pretty much however many candles you want. But there's a quirk about this because the API can only return 5,000 candles per request. So before, I didn't put any error handling or any way around that. So if you put more than 5,000, it just gave you an error. Now I've made it so that you can get as many candles as you want. But the thing about the API is when you make a request to the API, it will return to you the last 5,000 candles, right? So if, say, you are on the M1 chart and it's Monday at 2 p.m. and you ask for 5,000 candles, some of those candles that you're going to get are going to be like from a couple days ago because the weekend had no candles to give you back. But due to the way I wrote the code, if you put more than 5,000 candles, instead of giving you back the last X candles, it gives you back the last X periods. So if you put like, give me like 27,000 candles, it's going to give you less than 27,000 candles because it's not giving back the most recent 27,000 candles, but rather the most recent 27,000 periods. And so if you're using like a lower time frame, like a 30-minute or 5-minute or something, when a lot of those candles would have fallen on weekends, when the market's closed, you're not going to get candles for those periods. So you're going to get back less than however many candles you requested. And then start and end, this is if you want to do a actual time frame window, and this strictly has to be 5,000 candles. I'm sure I can make a way around it, but I haven't coded that in yet. But as it is right now, the window that you request by time can't contain more than 5,000 candles because it would break that API rule of 5,000 candles per request. For this, it has to be a Unix timestamp, but I've actually made a Unix time object which you will pass into here instead of a Unix timestamp like integer or float or something, because I'm sure you know, if you're coding in Python, it can be tedious to have to import the datetime module, then correctly format the datetime, and then create a datetime object to get the timestamp to pass it into here, right? The Unix time object I've created makes it really easy. You can put it into various easy human readable formats, and then it creates the datetime automatically, and it pulls the timestamp from that. So I'll explain how that works later in this video, but that is what you would pass into these if you want to use a time window rather than the count of periods. Keep in mind, if you define count, you can't define start and end, obviously. And then if you define start and end, you can't define count. And you have to have one or the other, but you can't have neither, of course, because otherwise you can't get the candles back. And then when the logic is done using the get request to the API, it gives you back the candles as this candle cluster object, which is pretty much a series of candles that are formatted from the JSON data that's received back from the API. And I'll also go over how this candle cluster object works later in this video too. Now this load accounts function, what this does is it pretty much gets the available account IDs you have to trade on your OANDA account, and it stores them in this list, self.available accounts. Now, if you're not familiar with how OANDA works, once you create an account on the website and you create accounts to trade, those are actually sub accounts under like your main account. You don't just have one trading account for OANDA. Say you have like 2 live accounts and 1 demo account. Those will each have separate account IDs, and so when you load your accounts, each ID will get stored in that available accounts list. Now, select account, it selects it by the index of that list. So if you want to get the first available account you have in that list, you put 0 for this argument here. If you want to get the second account, you put 1. If you want to get 2, you put, if you want to get the third account, you put 2. And when you select an account, pretty much what that does is it makes it so that when you trade, whatever, like if you open or close a trade, the trade will be applied to that specific account. So open trade, you pass in whatever instrument you want to trade on. Again, remember the formula that I talked about earlier, base pair underscore quote pair, and then however many units you want it to be. So like it could be like 1,000 units of the currency or whatever, so on and so forth. You just pass in the number here. And so once it makes the post request to the API, it receives a response here. and then it loads the transaction ID of that response into a list of your open trades of this API class. And so when you want to close a trade, you have to pass in that transaction, that same transaction ID, which you can again retrieve from the list of open trades you have here. And then by default, units is set to all, so it'll close out the entire position. Say you had a trade of 1,000 units, but you only want to close out half of it, then you'd pass in 500 right here. And so it makes the request to the API to close the trade, and then it removes that transaction ID from your list of open trades. So that in a nutshell is pretty much how the API class works. So if you were to use this package to retrieve data from the OANDA market, that's how you would do it. But before you do that, there's a couple things that you have to set up using this package and on OANDA, of course. So I will show you how to do that. All right, so we're here on OANDA's website. So of course, before you can use any of the code that I showed you before, since it's based off of OANDA's API, you need to make an OANDA account. So you can see we're here in my OANDA account. And you can see the one sub account I have in here. This is my demo account that I've been using to, test out trades, simulated trades on the market. And so this is what I was talking about when I was explaining like the sub accounts that you have under here. Like you can have multiple of these on here. And so in order to actually use this to like make requests to the API and do stuff with it, you need to get an API developer key. So in order to get an API key, you're going to click on trade right here, and that's going to take you to the window where you trade on OANDA. You're going to click API right here, and then this is going to take you to the page where you generate an API key. I've already generated one, so there's no option for me to do it here, but you'll do it here. It's going to show your API key once and only once, and you got to store it somewhere safe, because if you lose it, then you can't get it again, and you'll have to generate a new key. So if I click revoke here, it would revoke the one that I already have, and I would have to generate a new one to be able to use the API again. So once you get your API key, you're going to go to settings.py here in the OANDA PySuite package, and you're going to take your API key, paste it into a text file, and then you're going to copy the path to that file, and you're going to put it in this variable auth_file path right here. You can see I've already done it for mine. And that will allow you to use the API and make requests to it. Now let's go over this Unix time object that I was telling you guys about earlier. This is located in OANDA PySuite.objects.datatypes. And you can see this class Unix time here. And pretty much to instantiate this class, it only takes one argument, which is the time string. And as I was explaining to you guys earlier, the purpose of this class is to make formatting of time periods easy, and so you can easily get a Unix timestamp from a human readable time format. And so you can read here in the comment for this class how it actually works. So time string, which is this argument you pass in here, must be in one of the following valid date formats. So you can either pass in just the hour and minute, just the hour, minutes, and seconds, just the date in the year, month, day format, just the year, month, just the date, hours and minutes, or the date, hours, minutes, and second. And then you can see there's a little asterisk here. So providing hour and minutes and seconds without a date is going to assume the current date and provide the candle for today at that time. Providing a date without hours and minutes will assume midnight or 0 hours on that date, and we'll get the candle for midnight. So today is June 22nd. So if I just did a candle that said 1746, it's going to get me 1746 or 5:46 p.m. For June 22nd. So that's pretty much how Unix time works. So you have to get this class, make a unit time object, and then you pass that to the get candles function if you want to get candles from a certain time period. All right, so We're here looking at the candle cluster class, which is probably the most important class that you'll be interacting with when working with the OANDA API. And pretty much what this class does is it just serializes the market data that you get back from the OANDA API. And I'll just read out this little doc string. This class serializes JSON data received when using the API class to retrieve data from the market. It can be iterated over like a list, and each individual candle, so the items in the list, is its own object. The candle cluster class is essentially a list of individual candle objects. This class should never be directly accessed by the user for instantiation. So you shouldn't be making a candle cluster object like this, right? Don't ever do that. If you want to get candle data back and make an actual candle cluster object, you should use the get candles method of the API that we just went over. So inside of this candle cluster class, we have this meta class called candle, which is the information for an individual candle. And so this is all of the data here that we have for the candle. This is all stored inside of each individual candle when we create a candle cluster object. And these are all the methods that are associated with it. So now that we understand how that works, I will show an actual example of connecting to or using the API to actually get candle data, and how you can do that for yourself. All right, so I'm here in my PowerShell, and we're going to start Python 3.11, import the package, give it a short little nickname. All right, so now we're going to create the API object. That'll be easy. Just call it API. So API. Now it's created the API object. Now we'll get some candles from the market. Say let's get the last 2,000 candles of the pound dollar on the 5-minute time frame. Candles GBP underscore USD M5, and then counts equals 2,000. Boom. Now we can see using the string representation, we actually do have 2,000 M5 candles. Now, just to show you guys, we can actually do stuff with it. Let's iterate through them and print out each candle close price. So for candle in candles, print candle dot close. Boom. There we go. So, you know, pretty simple, basic stuff. But that's how we retrieve market data directly from OANDA using their API and this package that I've written. So if you guys find this useful, feel free to pull it from GitHub, mess around with it, make any changes to the code, and comment if you have any suggestions or you think it's useful. Thank you and have a good night.